Stan, most of your time in your playing days was as a catcher, so that gives you some insight as to what a catcher needs to do to be ready for a game. Tell us a little bit about your insight as far as what you do in working with catchers.
Well, first of all, I had two really good instructors. One was Clyde McCullough, and Clyde caught with the Cubs and the Pirates back in the 30s and 40s, and he was a tough guy, he really was. And he was fair though, but he didn't cut any slack with us. He worked our tails off. And the other instructor was Jerry Grody, and Jerry Grody was a wonderful catcher, probably if not as good as Johnny Bench, right behind him.
He just didn't hit as good as Bench.
Maybe not, but I tell you what, the guy was solid.
Yeah,
he definitely.
Behind the plate, absolutely.
Behind the plate, and he got his hits when he needed them too, though. I agree with what you said. But those two guys were wonderful instructors, and I took a lot from that. Also, learning how to call a game. I worked with some pretty good pitching coaches, Billy Connors, Les Moss, Bill Monbouquet. Those guys were solid. They knew what to look for and all that stuff because, their experience as professionally. And so I leaned on that too. And when they had pitchers meetings, I was involved in the meeting. I wasn't invited, but I made my way in there because I wanted to know exactly what they were being taught so I could possibly help them. Some pitchers, when you're catching a pitcher, some pitchers can take you can jerk them around a little bit and say, hey, let's bear down here. And some guys you got to pat on the back and say, you'll be all right. It just depends on that guy's personality, but you had to know exactly your guy, and a lot of that in these experiences, it kind of helped me as far as how I could help them while they were pitching. Well, anyway, so we get into working the physical stuff. Have you ever blocked balls?
I haven't, and I know that I've seen catching drills where they're blocking balls, and it looks like a lot of work.
Oh, golly, we at least 250 to 300 balls a day.
Yeah.
A day. Mm-hmm. This isn't like once a week or once a month. This was a day. So the idea was the more we do this, the less fear we had. Well, that's once again, that survival deal. Mm-hmm. You're taught. I mean, it's inbred. It's instinctive that you shy away from it, but you can't. You got to bear down and kind of work against your instincts and block the ball, particularly with a man on third base. Anyway, with anybody on, you need to keep the ball in front of you to keep them from advancing if you can. So one thing I'm seeing these days is these guys are catching one knees now, and I've been seeing a lot of balls going off that knee and it's going to the backstop and runs are scoring. Mm-hmm. Well, those catchers got to understand that that's an earned run for that pitcher. And I'm sure the pitcher doesn't appreciate it either. All right, but I got off the track here, but that's something that I've noticed lately. All right, so we'd block 250 balls, 300 balls a day. Okay, they had this thing in spring training that looked like a mortar. You shove the ball down this pipe and you pull the trigger down and it shot it up in the air. Well, those things they were shooting knuckleballs up in the air.
Trying to catch pop-ups.
Oh, yeah. And particularly in that those skies in Florida were nice and blue, mm-hmm. and it was hard to judge the it was just, they were just hard to judge coming down, and we had to do a lot of those to finally get it done. I mean, right. Clyde was losing patience with us because balls were hitting behind us.
Well, now that brings up one thing to my mind. The few times that I have caught in a game, a pop-up, you're supposed to turn your back to the field. That's the first thing you have to do.
There's a reason why.
Because there's some kind of optical illusion, like the last 10 feet of that ball dropping, all of a sudden it looks like it curves back toward the field.
Well, it does because it is curving.
Really?
Okay, so let's say the ball's popped up behind the plate, mm-hmm. okay? Well, when that hitter hit the ball, the bottom of the bat hit the baseball, and it started spinning all the way up. Now, when it's coming down, it's spinning even harder and coming back towards the infield. So you got to play the ball out in front of you to make sure it comes to you when you're catching.
It's different from out in the field. You want to be under the ball in the outfield to catch it, but you got to be behind the ball to catch a pop-up as a catcher. Is that
in front of it? Or the ball behind the ball means you're at the screen, and it's going to fall behind you.
Yeah, no, you need to be in front of it.
You be in front of it. Okay, so it's a little different on the it's a little different on the foul lines. Okay, so when like a left-hander fouls the ball up over the third base side, it's not going to come straight down. It's going to go towards third base. So the catcher needs to put his back towards third base and follow the ball down and in front of it. He's got to play it in front. He can't stand right underneath it because it'll fall behind him. Plays it in front of it with his back to third base. Now he's in position to catch the ball. Now, if it's a right-handed hitter hitting the ball over the first base side, it's going to come down more towards the first base bag. Okay. So you run out there and put your back to first base and in front of the ball, and it should come to you. The most of the time it will if you're playing it right. But that takes a lot of practice with that.
Absolutely.
It's hard to do when you're playing a ball game. That's not time to practice. That's when you got to do it.
Right.
But anyway, if you can do it, that's good practice. A lot of guys, they look at the instinct of the players. The guys more instinctively are going to do it better than the guys that need to learn it. But, that's a good question. But more about the mental side. I mean, what a catcher needs to do to hopefully get his pitcher a win, and you're an integral part of that. You're like the conductor of the orchestra. Everybody else is in the infield and the outfield is facing you. You're the only one that's facing them, okay? Right. So all of what you do, they're going to be reading off what you're doing as well. Now, before games, we used to talk about hitters, okay, and what their tendencies were,
right,
which is important. Okay, we have defensive spray charts that we were keeping on all the hitters, okay? So we knew the majority of the time where they're hitting the ball. It's called analytics these days.
That's what they call it now. Not a real fan of analytics myself.
Okay. Well, I think analytics are good.
I do too. I just think that people don't do anything to change the analytics once the defense makes adjustments for the analytics.
This is true. I mean, that's where they fail. But the analytics are good. It's just that they're not a one size fits all deal. You know, there are some organizations that fired scouts and went 100% into analytics. Well, you can look at that like this. Well, if you're going to bake a pie, you don't put just one ingredient in it. You put multiple ingredients in it to have a nice pie, a good tasting pie. Well, this pie is just a one ingredient pie that's eventually it's going to fall in on itself. That's my opinion. But anyway, we go over the hitters, okay? Now, what to look for? This guy's got bat speed. Is he turning on a good fastball and hitting it down the left field line, or if he's a left-handed hitter, is he pulling it down the right field line, okay? We want to know that. One, we want to know majority of the time what part of the count he's hitting in. Is he a first pitch hitter, or is he waiting, or is he a very patient hitter? Okay, we want to know that. And two, we want to know which pitch he's hitting the best, fastball, breaking ball, or all-speed stuff. Now, also, when you're reading bat speed, that's going to tell you where he is. Some guys that can't get around on a fastball, you're doing them a favor when you're throwing all-speed stuff to them because you're pitching to their bat speed. Okay, so what we want to try to do is maybe set them up with something like that and then really bring it in on them hard. It's just we're going to go against what their bat speed is, right? Hopefully throwing strikes in them and getting ahead of the hitters too. So when I was a manager, I used to tell all my pitchers, I said, look, I want you to go out there, throw strikes, get people out, and I want you to do it within 3 pitches per hitter. No more. three
Do what?
pitches.
In 3 pitches. What, Coach?
Yeah, I'm very anxious to get the game over with. No, really, what happens is you get a guy thinking like that. He said that's absurd, but really, I had a pitcher throw 89 pitches in one game.
Perfect.
It was a 9-inning game. It lasted 2 hours and 10 minutes, and we were in and out of there like crazy. And we won the ball game 5-0.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want my catcher to be working his pitcher that way, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be setting guys up unless I just damn sure have to. Otherwise, I want to pitch to him, get a ground ball out, and get him out of there. The sooner the better, okay? These guys going in 2 and 3 ball counts and walking guys, that does nothing for your
just the mental approach of the game.
No,
just, the fielders and everybody else.
And it does nothing for my patience either.
No, I'm sure it doesn't.
Oh boy. Let me tell you this real quick. I had a pitcher I brought in one time. I signed him myself. I thought, this is great. This guy threw 94 miles an hour, and dadgum, best side work I've ever seen. I get him in a ball game. He's a closer. Well, he had been released by an organization. I'm wondering, why, golly, what a good arm. But I get in there and put him in a game. He hits the first guy and walks the next 2. Okay, well, he struck out the next 3 guys. But, we had a 6-2 lead. That was no big deal. Mm-hmm. So I let him pitch another inning, and he struggled in that inning too. Then I got him out of there. Well, a pitching coach comes in and said, well, you brought this guy in to be a closer. We're going to have to put him in a closing situation. Okay, let's do it. We get in a 2-1 ball game. All right. Well, he does it backwards. He walks the first 2 and hits the third guy. Well, what I'd witnessed before, when he went out to pitch that one inning to close, mm-hmm. I already had somebody up ready to go because I wanted to. I needed some insurance.
Sure.
So when that happened, he loaded the bases with nobody out. I stood up and pointed to the guy in the bullpen. You're going in. I wanted the guy on the mound to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He needed time to think about that because it didn't matter what the catcher was calling. It just didn't work that night.
Right.
So I went out to the mound and said, okay, give me the ball. No, he wasn't going to leave. He gave me a hard time. I said, look, you're going to embarrass yourself out here. I don't embarrass very easy. Give me the ball. And I said, look, we can talk about this after the game, but not now. This is not, we got thousands of people in the stands. We don't need this. So he slammed the ball in my hand, and I put the next guy in. We got a 1 to 2 to 3 double play, and then the next guy popped up, and we get out of the inning and won the ball game. Well, after the game, he comes charging in that. I said, wait a minute, go on back out, shut the door. Okay. Then I want you to knock on the door, and then I'll think about inviting you in my office. We're not going to do it your way. We're doing it my way. Well, he went out the door, shut the door, knocked on the door.
Coach, you want to see me?
So, yeah. What's on your mind? That's what I told him. He goes, why'd you take me out of the game? I said, well, why? Come on. You got a psychology degree from a major university and you can't figure that out? Anyway, I said, look, that first night, he said, you left me in that night. Why'd you do that? I said, well, we had 6-2 lead. We had a little cushion. We didn't have any cushion tonight. It was 2-1. You left me no choice. I mean, you were hanging on that rope already. And you got to understand that. It's nothing personal. It's just all business. So he was okay after that.
It just seems like there are some pitchers that have to have that dire situation for them to pitch their best.
Well, that's the difference between a strike thrower and a non-strike thrower. With a guy on, were they going to get better? Or are they going to get worse? Or with nobody on, what are they going to do? I want to see what that guy's doing every pitch. I want to see his intensity like a Max Scherzer.
Mm-hmm.
That was hard to take him out of the ballgame when we only had a pitch limit on him because he was commanding the plate and he was a competitor. That's what you're looking for. That's what we need to teach. So the mental side of that, what the catchers need to do is help those pitchers be that kind of guy. All right? So they're watching all these things, reading bat speed, okay, knowing when they hit and the count, stuff like that. So now you take all the pressure off the pitcher when you do that. That's just the bottom line. The less pressure that guy's got on, the more he can focus on throwing those pitches he needs to throw and win the ball game and get an out, win the ball game. Mm-hmm. So basically, that's it. So the one thing I will tell you is working with those pitching coaches. Billy Connors was probably one of the funniest guys, and Les Moss was serious, and Bill Monbouquet was serious, but he was cut up too. So one spring training, Major League camp, actually, this is a good one. Herb Norman was the equipment manager for the Mets, and he was a practical joker if there ever was one. Well, we're in spring training one day, and all of a sudden I heard this horn. Somebody's blowing a horn up there by the, at the front of the clubhouse. I looked around, and Joe Pignatano, one of the coaches, is over there by Herbie Norman. Herbie's blowing this horn. And he said, I got $50. Anybody can blow this horn. It's the only one who could do it so far is Herbie. So while we were looking around to see who's going to do it, Herbie went and put some baby powder in that thing. And Monbouquet comes in, and he's headstrong. He says, I can blow that thing. So he comes walking in, give me that thing. Well, the bell, when you blew it, it's like a French horn, but the bell came back at the face. Mm-hmm. So you were actually blowing the horn into your face. Well, when he did it, all that baby powder blew up. And it broke the whole clubhouse up. And Monbouquet was chasing Pignatano around the clubhouse like a bunch of kids. Anyway, that was some fun we had that day.
Yep, that's part of training camp.
Yeah.
Baseball today. The trade deadline just passed not too long ago. Tell me of the thought process a player goes through when he finds out he's traded.
Well, I was traded. And my first thought was when I found out, the director, I said, well, you don't want me anymore? But anyway, I was traded for Bruce Bochy. He ended up being a pretty good catcher himself.
And not a bad manager either.
Outstanding manager. Yeah. He managed the Padres and the Giants. He won a couple World Series.
Yeah.
So I was proud of that fact. And actually, I saw him one time at the Anatole during the winter meetings. I was sitting out there talking to the other guy, and he bopped out of the door. He saw me. He said, "Hey, Stan," he goes, "I got to tell you, that blockbuster trade put baseball on its ear, didn't it?" He's talking about our trade. I went, yeah, you went to the White House and I went to the doghouse. I thought he's a good guy. Anyway, yeah.
Well, also in your time, you had a chance to locker right next to Willie Mays.
Oh,
Tell me about that experience.
1 whole month in Major League camp, and he was a genuine guy, great guy to talk to. And it's funny, that spring training, I was the last one out, sent down. The Tory came in and said, we're going to Chicago tomorrow morning at 5:30. Put your stuff in the foyer so they can load it up, get it on the truck so we can get on the plane. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, well, I'm the only one here that hadn't left, that's been sent down. And I said, Willie, think I made this team? He goes, well, did he talk to you yet? I went, no, he hadn't talked to me yet. He goes, well, put your stuff in the foyer. I put my stuff in the foyer. That night, he called me up to his room, told me I was going to AAA or, down to the minor league camp. I said, okay, thanks for enjoy it. I enjoyed it and all that. Just work hard and all that kind of stuff. So the next day, they pulled out 5:30 that morning, and Tom Miller, who was the equipment guy with the minor league side over at Payson Complex in St. Pete took me back over to Huggins Stingle where the major league team was. And you know what's funny about that? Where I left that bag, it wasn't touched.
Still
it was
there.
like, I said, Tom, look at this bag. It's radioactive. If you touch this bag, you go to minor leagues. So nobody had touched it. So that was a fun day we had there. But anyway.